Hi, and welcome to this week's episode, solo episode on the Guest List podcast. I am your host, Steve Guest. I'm really looking forward to talking to you again today about my personal brand journey. And the topic I've chosen for today's podcast is all about the book. So many of you who are now listening to this podcast will have read my first published book, Top Biller, The Life of a Recruiter. And I kind of wanted to share my journey because it's been such a powerful and humbling process that I think everyone should consider it. If you've ever sat there and thought that you should write a book, you've got an engaging and interesting story and you need to put pen to paper, or people are telling you need to go and write a book, then you just need to go and do it. And you need to find the time to be able to do it. So if I share with you my journey, my thought process. So I would probably say 3 or 4 years ago, I read a great book called The Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. And that has set me on a journey that, yes, includes the book alongside a whole manner of other things. But within the book, it talks about the fact that you want to become that key person. You want to become the go-to person in your industry. And the elements behind that are simply thinking in terms of somebody does a Google search on you as an individual, what will they find? Will they find the fact that you've wrote a book, that you've wrote articles, and you've been a guest speaker, and you've wrote keynote speeches, and you've got online or virtual assets that people can go and have a look at and read and then understand you as an individual, but actually that they then associate you as a voice within your market. It gives you credibility and it gives you authority. So that's what I was thinking. At the time, I was also going to lots of property networking events, looking to get into investment into property. And a lot of the seminars and leaders within that industry were talking about you should write a book, you should get yourself out there, you should tell everybody what you do. So my initial thought process was I was going to write a book about my property journey, from starting at the very start with no idea what I was doing and the journey that then ensued. But at the same time, I was sat there thinking, I don't really fully understand the market. So it's really difficult to write a book on a subject you haven't yet learned or embarked on. So I started thinking, okay, what can I do? How can I write that book? So obviously recruitment comes into the thought process because it's what I know, it's what I do day to day. And I kind of knew where I was working at the time that I was perhaps considering moving on in a different direction at some point in the near future. So the thought process of being able to differentiate me from the rest of the marketplace was certainly a significant thought. And I was sat there thinking, how can I make sure that the book, in essence, becomes my business card? And in effect, I become the recruiter that's wrote a book. And that's what started my thinking. So I bought a number of books off Amazon within recruitment. I read those and they were very much like reading textbooks, quite dry in terms of the content, and there wasn't really anything relatable. It was more of an education read than it was about the story. So I knew there was something I could create that was different. But also I wanted to, I suppose, motivate, inspire and empower perhaps the individual that doesn't quite fit into the industry. And that reverts back to that initial rejection on my recruitment journey, where I was told I didn't have the right character traits, I didn't quite fit in. I wasn't salesy or loud enough within what they would expect from a recruitment consultant. So I already had, I suppose, the starting point for a good story, because I was told I would never make it. And obviously within the journey of being in recruitment, I've been successful. So you could talk about the rise of being told no and then the ability to go and prove the doubters wrong. It allowed me to challenge the status quo. It allowed me to write something that was relatable to your everyday recruiter, that actually, if written in a way that offers value, but in a way of approaching it in a story as opposed to a textbook, allowed me to do something a little bit different. It allowed me also to build upon my personal brand, because from a day-to-day work perspective, if I'm looking to do something different and remove or move away from where I was currently working, I had to do something that elevated my personal brand to a new level. And yes, I had reservations. Even at the very start, you sit there and those self-preservation thoughts come into your head, and you think, is the book going to tank? Is it actually going to go anywhere? Is anybody going to read it? Is it going to be credible? Will I be ridiculed? Will I be critiqued? Yes, I definitely will. Putting something out there that is in the public domain will allow people to come at you from all various guises and say what they think. So it could be seen as a very brave move and a brave decision. But knowing my character traits in the term that I'm reserved, considered, and I look at things in a very logical way, I kind of knew that the content would add value in some shape or form. How that would be received, as I say, I didn't know at the start of the journey. And it was difficult. I started and I wrote for about 6 months. And then I suppose I fell out of favour. The book got pushed down the priority list as work picked up. And I had probably a 4 to 6 month gap of not writing at all. And as I say, you fall out of the habit, and I struggled to get back to it. And it got to Christmas 2018, I think it was. And I really wanted to do it. I don't like starting something and not finishing. So I contacted a lady who manages the self-publishing route and said, I'm partway through my book. I need to get it finished. I agreed a date with Sam at Swap Books to, I suppose, make sure that I was accountable. I had a date in time that I had to get the book finished by. So it meant I had to make changes and adjust to ensure that I got it done. So I made sure I had an overall concept for the book. The general idea was there and the storyline was there. And I could document everything that I'd got involved with over the years because of the copious amounts of notes I've made on a daily basis. I had to kind of think of a way or find a way to make sure I could get the writing done. And what I did was I used to get into the office for about 5:30. I would give myself an hour to an hour and a half where I could just write, which is a good couple of strong coffees in there as well. Give myself an hour or so before consultants came into the office for the normal daily working routine. And it just gave me a space in time to make sure I got the writing done. To ensure that it was focused, I used to give myself a question or two questions the previous evening that I was going to answer through my writing the following morning. So it might be scenarios that I had to deal with. How did I deal with them? How did I ensure that I became a successful consultant? How did I deal with certain aspects or various things that affected me at any point during that journey? But it gave me a central focus, and I was committed to making sure that I did some writing every single day, 5 days a week. I wanted to get all the text completed first. I wanted the general story and the general outline to be done. And I think I'd got to about 36,000 words. And then I went out and found my editor, Claire, who I asked to basically refine how I'd written the story. My sarcastic Birmingham dulcet tones don't always come through my writing, albeit they might come through on camera. You tell me, I don't know. But I needed someone to add that element of finesse to the writing. So I got Claire on board to help frame the book in a much better way and allow it to be an easier read to anybody that bought it. And I mentioned Sam earlier. I went the self-published route because I wanted the ability to have more of a control over the book and the marketing of the book. Top Biller is a print on demand. So wherever the copies are ordered around the world, it's printed by the nearest workshop and then obviously posted out. So that allows for a quick response time on any demand. But equally, it lowers the cost and the overhead. For me, I didn't need boxes of books in the garage and an outlay to obviously spend to have a collection to be able to send out. And then effectively, it was just about the marketing. A lot of it was online. Most of my marketing has been organic and through social media. One of the best things that happened within the book, that if I'm honest, when I first offered the free gift of the planner, it was very much to be a nice person. It was to offer value to readers. It was to engage and have some contact from anybody that read the book, so I could thank them for spending their hard-earned cash on something that I'd wrote. But actually what it allowed me to do was get the readers and the people that bought the book to then effectively go and market the book to their network. Having now been on sale for 15, 16 months, Top Biller has now sold across 44 countries. It's just short of 6,000 copies up to today. It's far excelled any expectation. Some of you will have heard me talk about that seminar that I sat in when I first started writing the book. And the talker at the front said, how many within this room have published a book? There's about 60, 70 people in the room. 9 or 10 hands went up. And the speaker said, keep your hands up if you've sold more than 50 copies. And every single hand went down. And if I'm honest, I was truly shocked. I suppose never really thought about targets and how many books I would sell. But on the basis that 50 was something that other people in that room hadn't achieved, it worried me a little bit, if I'm honest. It gave me those kind of anxiety pangs that actually this book might not go anywhere. And do I continue doing what I'm doing? Maybe that had an element subconsciously of stopping me from writing for 6 months. I don't know. But I think the limit then was set that 50 copies was the minimum I was going to sell. Obviously, it's far out surpassed that, which has been amazing. But from a personal brand perspective, it's opened up so many doors. It's created so many opportunities. It's given me a platform. It's given me a level of authority within my market where people know who I am. People will come to me and send me messages. The amount of messages I get on a daily basis is crazy. It's allowed me to grow. It's allowed me to add and do different things. This podcast is born out of the book popularity. It's given me authority. It's given me credibility. It's allowed me to differentiate from the rest of the market. I have become the recruiter that's wrote the book. My clients and candidates have bought copies so they get an understanding of what we go through as recruiters on a daily basis. It's given me far greater exposure than I could ever imagine. As I say, the opportunities come through thick and fast, and they're so diverse and so varied that it allows me to meet a diverse group of individuals that then furthers the opportunities. It's allowed me to speak at events, network with some really truly inspirational people. And as a sideline, it's created a passive income from the royalties that turn up in the bank account every few months. And I think as an overall, I champion personal branding, and within recruitment, personal branding is key. But I think within all walks of life, everything we do this day and age, it's so governed by social media and what happens and how many people you tell and who you tell what you do. It's becoming more of a concept that holds greater power. And I think writing a book is just something that you can do. You can create that story and bring people along with you. It's really empowering. It's really motivational. And it is truly humbling. And if you've bought your book and you bought my book and you're listening to this, a huge thank you to you, because every little bit of support, every review. On Amazon, Top Biller is the highest reviewed recruitment book globally. And I think as of today, it's 256 reviews. 77% of those are 5 stars, which is amazing. And so much so, it's led me down the path where I've just written my second book. The second book comes out the last week of July. As it stands, the final version 3 has gone out to the editor today. So that should be out on sale in a few weeks' time. And the second book is called A Personal Brand Story. And it's the journey of being that local recruiter that was told you'd never make it, to actually now recruiting, training, mentoring, coaching recruiters on a global scale, continuing my recruitment day-to-day journey of placing commercial construction professionals, and having a voice within the market that can differentiate, bring innovation, and be part of that kind of thought leadership as we move forward. So that kind of draws us to the end of today's podcast. I hope that's been interesting. And for those of you that are looking to potentially write a book, there's some valuable content in there that can get you started. If you want to get in touch, if you've got questions, if you need some help or support, you know where to find me. Give me a shout and I will help where I can. Good luck, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of The Guest List. Take care.